morning, everybody. Welcome to Sobriety, Spirituality, and Sales. My co-host, Mike Bader. He's the sponsor of the show, State Farm agent, First and River. And we are super, super excited to have a friend of mine on the show this morning, Matt Mishler. Matt is the CEO of Lion Rock Financial Services. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning, Matt.
I like the drawing in the back there.
Well, Lion Rock, that's my agency, so I got a big old lion in the back. Yep.
Did you have David's guy commission that for you, like the painting in his home?
No, not the same guy. I don't think I could have afforded that one yet.
Right. So happy birthday, man. How you doing today?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, doing good, man. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Getting ready for the holidays, man.
Yeah, it's going to come quick.
We appreciate you being on around the holiday season. Again, happy birthday to you. A big thanks to your wife for, letting you come on as well. I know you guys are busy all the time, and so thank you so much. So let's just dive right into it. Matt, I know your story. I know the success that you've had in business. I know a little bit about your sobriety journey. I know that you have a faith-based journey as well. So where are you from originally?
I'm originally from a little town called Mendon, Michigan. I'm sure nobody's familiar with that, but it's near Kalamazoo. I actually graduated high school with 36 people in my class, so super small town. Yeah, that's. Everybody there worked in a factory, Lear Plastics or TH Plastics. So it was a factory town, and that was my first sign I wanted to get out of there. It didn't fit what I wanted to do with my life.
Okay, and how old are you today?
I turned 43 today.
43,
Yeah.
43. All right. And so when you decided you wanted to leave Michigan, where did you end up going?
Yeah. So in high school, I worked at a telemarketing job. I did that for 4 years until I was 20. I moved up. They made me the office manager, and now understanding business, I was super leveraged. I was making $500 a week. I would get like a $1,500 to $2,000 bonus every month. And honestly, I grew up on welfare and food stamps. So that was it was life changing. I was making more money than my parents were, but I did it for 4 years and just didn't feel fulfilled, looking for something else, and joined the military. I joined the United States Marine Corps, did 2 years active there, and then 4 years in the reserve. And then once I got back after my 2 years active, I worked with Allstate Insurance. I heard you had a State Farm guy there. So,
buddy.
Yes. Yeah, very, very similar model. And I worked for an agent with Allstate in Indiana, and I did really well and got the attention of some higher ups at Allstate, and they offered to help me build my own agency in either Las Vegas, Miami, or Orlando. Didn't speak Spanish, so Miami was kind of off the books for me, scared me, especially coming from a small town. Las Vegas, that also scared me. And so I ended up in Orlando, and I had that agency for a little over 5 years, and I sold it when I was 26 or 27 years old. Wow. But I've been down in Florida ever since, really.
So it sounds like you've had some massive success as a very young person then.
Yeah, I've always been a hard worker, which also I remember the first time I had my first drink. I didn't drink until I was 17 years old. And that voice in your head of not being good enough, not fitting in. I remember that first drink was that feeling of oh, that voice is gone. And that's started my path into drinking. So throughout my entire career, I was a very functional alcoholic. I would, meet deadlines. I would get things done. And it just got progressively worse and worse as time went on. Because it's a beast that's eventually going to catch up with you. You think you can tame it. You think you can control it. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. You start justifying, you start hanging out with different people I remember hanging out with the people I was hanging out with when I stopped drinking. I don't even know how I got mixed up in that crowd, but I was just hanging out with people that would drink more than me, so I could feel like I was the lesser of the alcoholics in the room, or the lesser of the drug addicts in the room. And it became difficult to find those people that would keep up with me or outdo me, but that was the justification monster that I was, dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. So your sobriety date is the 28th of September, 2021. Is that correct?
Yeah, just a little over 4 years ago. Yep.
So congratulations.
Congrats.
So you're saying you had your first drink at 17, and what came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, did you think you had a propensity to be an alcoholic growing up, or was it something that you developed over time? I personally have the viewpoint that salespeople and business people and high functioning, people in business have that propensity, have that, work hard, party harder kind of attitude. And they are able to do things and get things done and still function to a certain extent.
Yeah, well, I mean, that what you said, I mean, a lot of people in sales, business owners, entrepreneurs, they're dealing with a lot of stress. They're also highly competitive. And I think for the most part, the ones that are successful, especially, we have an addictive personality. Like you're addicted to success, you're addicted to that next paycheck, you're addicted to that next breakthrough. And then it just bleeds into your drug and alcohol abuse as well. Taking things further and further.
Absolutely. Yeah. So do you had this Allstate agency, you sold it at 26?
I was 26 or 27 years old. So I had a little over 500 customers, book of business on it. And I didn't like the business. All right. I was young, didn't understand it fully. I was just doing it for a paycheck. How I built my business. So this is interesting too. So I found there was data lists that I could buy of people that owned cars in the area. And then if they have a 2002 Nissan Altima, I would build a generic quote and print it off. And then I would stuff an envelope and then I would handwrite their address on it. So they're more likely to open it because it's a handwritten note. And then I hired a full-time lady, and I was sending out thousands of those a week, and then people would call in, and then I would generate the quote, do a real-time quote, run their driver's license, and then try to pivot into their homeowners, their renters, life insurance, and all that stuff. But that's how I built it, and it was a grind, and I was just doing it for a paycheck. I didn't understand the insurance world. When I sold it for $180,000. And coming from where I came from, I was making about 60 to 80,000 a year, but getting that lump sum, I thought I was retired. And so, especially being that young, and there's a couple clubs downtown Orlando that I probably owned part of with all the money I spent in that year. And I was broke. I was dead broke a year later. And then I got into a career with Verizon Wireless, a retailer with them, and I actually was with them for about 13 years, and just climbed up the chain, promotion after promotion, and then 10 years into that, I got promoted to, that's the thing with the corporate world too. You feel like once I get there, I'll be happy. Once I get there, I'll be happy. And you just repeat this pattern of like, happiness is that next promotion. Happiness is the next promotion.
Right.
Exactly.
Mike had a similar story.
Yeah.
So what I heard recently, this really rings true for me. It hit home for me is, a sobriety journey is ego deflation and a spiritual experience. So, you're telling me the way you grew up, you didn't have a lot of money. And, somebody like that, even myself, my folks were teachers. Mike's kind of explained to me the story. We had to kind of make of our lives, what it was ourselves. We didn't have, help. So there's kind of a chip on the shoulder, but your ego gets involved with that, right? And when you're a business owner or you're a salesperson and you have some success, you're beating on your chest, and, you can go out and drink all night, and you can wake up, early the next day and go back and hit it again. But that takes its toll on your body. That definitely takes a toll on the mind. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me you made this career pivot into Verizon, and you jumped the corporate ladder with them. Talk a little bit about that experience in corporate America and the amount of people that are addicts or alcoholics, and the amount of people that are, barely hanging on, to their sobriety. Maybe they think keeping it a secret, maybe they're not, but they're,
Yeah, my regional directors, their idea of doing a celebration if you hit certain numbers was we'd go out and drink, And so I was surrounded by those people, high performing salespeople, and and that's exactly it. I remember being out all night, showing up to the stores, and like having my best day on a hangover, and then re-justifying. I was like, man, maybe I sell better when I'm hungover, and start selling yourself all this bullshit. But yeah, I mean, when we would hit, I mean, they had a yearly trip that they would take us leaders out to Vegas and, kind of like splurge on us a little bit. But it was, I mean, it was reckless, and my higher ups, my regional directors were, involved in that. And me being where I'm coming from, I'm looking at them as somewhat of as a leader or even a fatherly figure. And I'm mimicking their behavior, thinking that's what success is. Okay. If they're doing it, then it must be okay.
Yeah, and you don't want to let them down because you don't want to let them down because you want to do what the ideas that they're pushing, maybe because that next promotion.
Yeah, I remember the last year that I went to Vegas, because every year, like, yeah, it was exciting to go, but I knew the regret I would have after coming back or even there. And I tried to like make an excuse not to go. And I remember my boss like just like manipulating me to a certain way, like, no, this is part of leadership, this is good for everyone, you got to go, you're going to be missing out. I couldn't even like say no to a Vegas trip, without. And so ended up going, but that was my last time that I went. And then when I got I mean, there was probably 8-9 different promotions in there throughout the years, and I got the biggest promotion I can get. Well, there's no more promotions after it. So I moved from sunny Florida back up to the Midwest, up to Minnesota, and I was running all the stores in Minnesota. So that was my market. I had my own market per se. And I remember saying goodbye to Oriana, who's my wife right now. We weren't dating then. We were good friends. And that's another thing. So like the whole time knowing Oriana, I knew that I liked her. I knew that I wanted to be with her, but I also didn't want her to see that version of me. So I was able to keep it together in the times that we were around each other, but I couldn't spend too much time with her because I can only keep it together for so long.
Man, that sounds like.
What's that?
That sounds like it has to be mentally exhausting.
Yeah. And telling myself, like, I remember visualizing and dreaming, like, man, this is the woman of my dreams, but like, I can't fully let her in because I can't let her know that I have this. I mean, I wouldn't say that I knew I had a problem. I was still negotiating that in my mind, whether I had a problem or not, but I knew I couldn't be my full alcoholic, drug addict self in front of her. So it was exhausting to hang out with her, as friends, wanting more in my head without communicating that to her and just keeping her at a certain distance in my life, and then letting loose on the side and hiding that version of myself. But yeah, so I said goodbye to her. This is around January of 2019. And I remember crying in the U-Haul on the way up, but like I told her at the time, this is my dream job. And she remembers the conversation to this day. She's like, I wasn't going to like stop you from your dream job. Like, you're your own man. And in my eyes, that was my dream job. So moved up there to run the market. I took the market from 4.2 million a month to over 18 million a month in sales within my first year.
Wow.
Just retraining the market. I mean, I had an idea what the market needed and everything. It was just, they didn't have a leader. They didn't have real training. It was just going through the motions. And, but yeah, I put everybody back through training. I got rid of some people that weren't fitting. And I mean, that was it's crazy what I was able to do within 1 year to just, almost 10x what they were doing the year before with the same amount of stores. And then we started getting more stores and growing from there over the next 3 years. And, I was making about $200,000 a year, and I felt trapped. I'm working for corporate. I'm hitting every multiplier you can ever imagine, and I'm maxed out at how much I can make. And I'm arguing back with them to try and put me. I didn't even want a salary. I was like thinking like an entrepreneur. I was like, take my salary away, give me targets, and give me like more money that make me prove that. And it went back and forth. But I did that for 3 years. COVID hit. I was up there. And I remember going to the liquor store because Minnesota like really shut down. It's a blue state. So like everything was shutting down. So my first concern was like, will I have enough alcohol? So I remember I bought 18 half gallons of Jameson. And Yeah. So
Yeah.
I thought that would last me, 6 months. I was like, if this thing shuts down for 6 months, I got enough Jameson. Honestly, I mean, I had some friends over here and there, but like that was gone within a little over 30 days.
I was gonna say I was about to take a guess.
Yeah, I should have let you guess. Yeah.
30 days. Wow.
Well, it's like, you know what? I used to have this doctor. I used to get Percocet from a doctor, and this doctor was not on the up and up. And I knew that when I walked in because he actually asked me how many pills that I wanted per month, and I thought that was so 210 came out of my mouth. Right, I did a quick math, and those 210 Percocet 30s would last me like 7 days. But and it was a month's supply, but I would sell half of them.
Yeah.
And I'd end up buying the other half back for twice as much as I paid for it. So I was not a good entrepreneur at that.
Down in Minnesota, Matt, you were just in the house that working.
Yeah, I mean, it was full lockdown. Like there, like you could not go to people's houses. I knew some people within the high rise that I lived in, and they would come over to my place and we would party. And I remember I bought a bunch of Nerf guns on the company card. And like we were running through the hallways playing Nerf guns like kids. But yeah, I mean, Minnesota was locked down. I want to say it was like 6 or 9 months because it was, and then I couldn't go to the stores, so I couldn't like visit my my territory. I was literally locked up in the house, and I remember having like I was doing cocaine as well, so I remember just having drunken, coked up conversations with managers in stores and idle hands. I mean, sitting at home all day, every day, especially with my mindset, that really, really pushed me into drinking and using almost every day. You do to protect your ego, to make yourself believe that you don't have a problem. It's absolutely crazy. How did I not know I had a problem after I go through 18 half gallons of Jameson in just over 30 days? Like, that should have been the wake up call, but it wasn't.
Yeah, the insanity of telling us stories that will make sense to us, that will rationalize and justify our actions. Mike grew up similar to me. We both went to Catholic school growing up, and I'm just curious, the spirituality piece for you. Did you grow up in a religious home? Did you, discover God on your own? What does that look like for you? And was that prevalent in your life prior to getting sober? For somebody like me, I drifted away. I thought God wanted nothing to do with me. Okay. And then once I just made a decision that I wanted sobriety, then I started down the spiritual path that I'm on today. So if you don't mind just kind of touching on that journey for yourself.
I was raised an atheist. My dad, I remember distinctively him saying only weak people pray to an imaginary guy in the sky. Like that's how I was raised. And that kind of gives you everything you need to know about how I was raised with God. My dad was my God, right? And my dad was God. He was. I have a relationship with him today. He's found God, but it's very strange to me because growing up, everything that he said. So I mean, to give you some perspective, like only imaginary people pray to an imaginary guy in the sky, and then there was a point in my life. My dad's name is Todd. It's spelled Todd. He legally changed his name to Tod with one D. And I remember him saying, if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for Todd. Wow. So that's what I grew up with. So no, God was going into AA and my outpatient rehab. One of the things is accepting a God of my understanding. That opened the door for me because I've always felt that there's something other than myself, something else controlling this, whatever it is. And that just opened the door just enough for me to like peek in. And it felt good to lean into that more and more and more. But yeah, I didn't start a relationship with a God of my understanding until I was 38 years old, almost 39. And that's been a path. I got baptized on my birthday, my birthday in 2023. So I'm 2 years since then, and we go to church on Saturday. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. My understanding of the Bible is the Sabbath is a Saturday. and everybody can take their own from that. But I mean, my understanding was, Jesus was crucified on a Friday. He rested on the Sabbath, and he was resurrected on a Sunday. That's when I get back to work. And that's what we honor. And we have a phenomenal church community. It's a very small church, probably 25, maybe 35 people on a busy Saturday. And there's not one pastor or preacher. That everybody takes turns. There's like 5 or 6 people that will take turns on teaching the lesson that week. And I like the feeling of that church, because everybody, and it's almost like AA. Like everybody gets to speak on what they're seeing from the scripture that we're going through that day. And so we have a discussion through it. And yeah, I'm really grateful to have the relationship. I mean, it's the last thing I do when we go to bed is pray. The first thing I do when I wake up is pray. And there's also a meditation that I listen to every morning as well. But yeah, that's the long and short of my relationship with God. That was a hard one for me, and that's because I've been in AA rooms, when I think the first one I went into was 2012. And those aren't my people. I do not have it as bad as them. Like, that guy's a real alcoholic, not me, and then listening to the God stuff. And I was like, and I would go to one meeting just to go, when I was feeling super guilty, super ashamed. I would go to the meeting and then feel even more guilty, more ashamed. And then I would go drink my guilt and shame away. But yeah, that's how my relationship with God or a higher power has developed.
Well, I love that, and I love what the book talks about is, it's a higher power, it's a God of your understanding, and Bill and Dr. Bob, I don't know if they intentionally did this, but obviously with wanting to grab as many people's attention as they could, because if my experience is if somebody shoves something down my throat, I'm resistant to it, right? They weren't telling me what to believe in. They were saying, do your own research, do your own soul searching and figure this out for yourself, and more will be revealed. It states that in the book. And I have found that that's been my experience too. So, Mike's on a path of recovery. And so he's kind of early in his journey. And I think, everything you're touching on is kind of like what he's going through too right now, and what I've been through. I mean, here's the thing too, is what I heard you mention is going to meetings initially, you had this resistance to it, right? So the addiction, our mind is telling us we're separate. We're different than everybody else, But once you start to see similarities, that's when the ego deflation happens. That's when you can have an opportunity to have a spiritual experience. When you say, you know what, forget about these other areas where, yes, I'm different than that person, but I see these similarities in that person, that I have those same characteristics or traits, and if they got, maybe I can get through it too.
Yeah. So I didn't actually go through AA to start. I went through outpatient rehab center because I was trying to do it my way, and I've been to 5 or 6 AA meetings, over the last 7 or 8 years prior to that, and I knew that wasn't gonna. My ego wouldn't let me go into those rooms, so I thought it'd be best if I paid a bunch of money for outpatient rehab, and the rehab center I went to was Lion Rock Recovery, which is an homage to Lion Rock Financial Services. But my real recovery, that got me into it. And then about 8 or 9 months after that, I actually started going to AA. And I remember I was like, man, I could have saved a lot of money if I would have just sat in AA, because everything's there. It really is. It's just, again, your ego just getting in the way, and now I pop on Zoom meetings. I have an AA meeting right up the road from here, and it's the best thing for me. And like you said, first there's that resistance. Now when I sit in those rooms, I recognize the similarities. My brain was engaged before to point out how I'm not similar to those people, but when you let your ego go and you're humble enough, you realize maybe I didn't end up homeless, everything that this guy went through, but I could end up there if I were to continue down the path.
Yeah, I think that's important to talk about. And I if I may say, Mike's son passed away in July of an overdose. I was working with him, and I mean, he was just an incredible kid. And the reason that we're here today, and what is the reason that we're here today. But I would tell him, hey, anything's possible if you get sober, and anything's possible if you don't get sober. Right. So to your point, I mean, you never know how far you can fall. And I've had people tell me in the past, look, you could be sponsoring me one day, somebody with a lot of time, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you got to humble yourself because the person that you're talking to that has a day sober, the roles might be switched up one day because you never know what's gonna happen. We get one day at a time with this deal, and I think that's been the biggest thing for me in business, and you may attest to that. Is you might be going through some tough times in your business today or last year or whenever, but we have a brand new opportunity on a day-to-day basis to correct behaviors, to correct the way we approach business, our personal relationships, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the business side, like this, I mean, this wouldn't be here with if I didn't get sober, 100%. There's over 100 agents that rely on myself, Oriana, my leadership team to make the right decisions to make sure they're taken care of. I mean, we have a unique system in the life insurance industry that it's all inbound calls. I was sharing with you the other day, I think yesterday on the phone, like I'm going through some issues on the lead side, but thank God I'm sober, so I'm navigating this. If I was drinking, I wouldn't even be able to navigate to this point where I'm at right now, anyways. I would have blown it up. I would have self-sabotaged many times. The the funny thing about me, and I've been working through this too, is like it's almost like if I'm in suffering, I'm to a point with my sobriety. I remember when I used to drink, I would drink if I was happy, if I was sad, if I was in the middle, whatever. If I'm happy, let's get happier. If I'm sad, that'll make me happy. If I'm in the middle, let's get happy. Now, the only time I get urges now is when everything is like running smooth. I feel good. The ego takes over.
There's Yep.
That's when I get the urges of like, how can I take this high a little bit higher? That's when I jump into a meeting. That's when I meet up with my therapist. That's when I have a conversation with Oriana, bring me back down to earth. So I've been trying to navigate that. I'm like, man, am I creating these struggles within our business so I stay sober?
That's
So, and I very well could be. It could be a a way of protecting myself in a way. But I got to get through this because I'd rather be on the other side and just enjoying the business, but not putting out fires all the time. But when you're running a $20 million business too, I think there's always fires to be put out too. So
Yeah, let's talk about that, Matt. You went from insurance to Verizon management, and now you're back in, well, you're in life insurance. So how
yeah,
long when did you open up Lion Rock, or when did you start it?
yeah, October 11th, 2023.
Okay.
Um, I stepped away from my corporate job May of 2022. So yeah, let me talk about that real quick. So I was 3 years up there. I had about 6 to 8 months of sobriety under me, and one of the things I realized was like, man, I am not. When I was sober, I was like, I hate this job. I'm not fulfilled. I'm a rat on a wheel. I'm not living in my life's purpose. And so I went to Oriana. By this time we're actually dating. I had come clean with her in 3 months into my sobriety in December. I just had a real conversation with her, like, hey, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, and she handled it with grace. And she had an idea, but I was fairly good at hiding it with her. With other people, I wasn't as good, but she knew that there might have been something there. But I'm very grateful how she handled that, and our friendship blossomed. And then next thing you know, we're dating. She took on dating a drug addict and an alcoholic. So, but yeah, so May, we fast forward 4 or 5 months down the road, and I'm still up in Minnesota, and I'm just sharing with her because we were going back and forth. She would come up to Minnesota, I'd come down to Florida, and I'm just sharing with her. I was like, I started a little Turo business, a car rental business on the side in my sobriety to start something on the side, and I had about 18 vehicles. I was netting about $4,000 or $5,000 a month from that. And I came to her and I said, hey, I think I just want to quit the corporate thing because I'm not fulfilled with this. I hate getting up in the morning. I hate everything about it. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to, why don't we move back down to Florida? And she didn't miss a beat. She says, babe, I've been waiting for you to feel this calling. I don't know what we're going to do, but right now let's make a move on that. God has bigger plans, and fully supported me. So moved down to Florida, and the idea was, okay, we'll just live smaller. We're making $4,000 or $5,000 a month. Moved into a tiny apartment. Stopped going out to eat, and then 2 months into that, 2 of our vehicles got in really bad car accidents. There were some insurance issues about who would cover. The one was a hit and run, and just a mess. And I had to shell out a bunch of money. I had to pull into my 401k, and the regret, like, I mean, how stupid do you feel? You leave a $200,000 a year job, and then now you're struggling immensely financially. You're pulling out of your 401k to keep afloat. So then we sat down and we said, okay, we got to find the thing that we're going to build. And we sat down and wrote down 100 business ideas. And you fly through like 8, 9, 10 business ideas. That's easy. But if you hold yourself accountable to 100, like, that's hard. I mean, I was writing down, donating blood, donating other things, just anything to get to 100. And life insurance was not one of those. So because I had done insurance before, and my mindset was like, I don't want to do that again. So I didn't write insurance in there. So we started a drop shipping store, merchandising store, got into a gym for 3 months that we almost bought. At one point, we were even looking at wooden pallets on like the countryside of Orlando. You could go find them in, cow pastures and stuff like that, or wherever you can find them, load them up on a truck, take them to a guy by the airport, and he'll buy them for like 30 or 40 bucks a piece. And like, that was a business idea. And there was about 7 or 8 different failed businesses. Now, I did get into solar for a little bit. I was in that for about a year, and I made the most amount of money I ever made, but I repeated the same pattern of working 70, 80 hours weeks. I was on the road all the time. And then this is when we brought in David Bear. And our conversation with him is like, up until then, we're sharing with David Bear, like, strategy with business, mindset, and all that. But then we had a call. So I had just got done the day before. I drove 3 hours to an appointment to be there at 9 a.m. in the morning. The guy doesn't show up. I'm pissed. I'm literally going around his house trying to find him, because I'm like, he set this appointment. Where is he? Can't find him. Then I'm eating Burger King out of a Burger King parking lot. My next appointment's 2 hours away. I go there, I make the sale. I make like $3,000 from that sale. And then my next appointment's another hour and 45 minutes away. I make the sale there. So I'm going back, get home 10, 11 o'clock. I had left at like 5 in the morning, and I made $6,000. And I never felt so trapped before. I was like, okay, I can make this money, but there's not enough time in the day to have a life anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's what we brought to David. It was like, hey, we've been building this business. We absolutely hate it. There's no time management. There's no work-life balance, everything. And he did a bunch of, there was more coaching than what I remember. But the main thing that I remember was him saying, well, like, okay, well, got it. So your living expenses are about $12,000 to $15,000 a month now. So you just need to find an opportunity that's going to pay you $15,000 a month, maybe even $20,000 a month. And that, we ended the call. And I was like, I was going to Oriana. I was like, we're paying this guy for this fucking advice? Like, just find an opportunity, And so I was even more frustrated. But then Oriana, she's like, babe, we wrote down 100 different business ideas. And then just referencing back to that, it came to me that 6 months earlier, a good friend of mine that I've known for 15 plus years had reached out to me about an idea to build a life insurance agency that would allow us to have inbound leads. He had a lead gen idea. And 6 months ago, I was sitting in a $58,000 a month with solar. So when he reached out to me, I remember I was very short with him. I'm like, no, man, I got life figured out. I don't want to get into anything else. And so I didn't give him the time of day. But right after that call, that ding, I was like, oh, let me give Mo a call. Let me just see what that idea was. And I listened to it over the phone. We talked for about 45 minutes to an hour. And I was like, man, this is genius. Like, why didn't you tell me about this sooner? And he's like, I tried to. And at that point, understanding how we were going to generate the leads, how it was going to be inbound calls, there wasn't being in-home appointments. Like the life insurance industry is a very, very old school industry. Door knocking, cold calling, we don't do any of that. So like that was what was attractive with that. And that's why we hit the ground running with this. We just went all in with it. I proved the model first with myself, my brother, and my wife, Oriana. We started it out of my house and got a massive amount of sales for those first 3 months. And then we just started recruiting people within my network, a lot of people from Verizon, a lot of people from Solar. And now, I mean, our agents work less than 40 hours a week. Our average agent makes 6 figures. And we just have a really good process in place and systems in place that's very different than your regular sales organization.
So are you guys brokering through several companies, or do you have just one company that you sell through?
Yeah, we're direct brokered through about 18 different carriers.
Okay.
So we are able to shop the rate, find them the best rate, and we mainly deal in the final expense market.
Okay.
So people that are just covering their burial expenses. I was just looking at the numbers this morning. We year to date, we do about 12% of our business is term or IUL products, but I mean, 88% of it is just final expense, just making sure they're not a burden when they pass away.
So basically, these people are calling you up. This is what we need, or this is what we want, and you're just finding the product for them.
Yeah, well, and we specifically target a lot of people that are with certain carriers.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to call us because we know they're overpaying to get a review on their policy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's certain carriers that have little to no underwriting. The best way I can explain it, someone 42 years old or 43 years old now calls in and gets a policy for $100 a month for 10,000 in coverage. I call in and get that policy, and then another guy that's 43 years old, that's 500 pounds, has cancer, he gets the same rate as I do. So we're extracting healthy people from unhealthy insurance policies that will give them more coverage for a better price.
Just a good whole life policy.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Nice.
I have a question. So how does, you mentioned getting baptized and you mentioned your faith, and I'm curious first how you decided, was Oriana a member of Seventh-day Adventist? How did you get involved with that organization? And then secondly, how does your faith show up in the way you run your business? How does your faith, can you see looking back now that this opportunity that maybe God nudged you a little, put a little voice in your head that said, maybe you can call that guy back. Maybe you should find out about that. Because you guys were putting in the work to come up with this new business idea, this business venture, hiring David, being open to possibilities, being teachable and coachable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. God definitely had a hand in it. There's been multiple signs. When I was struggling with the solar, and I was just like that night before when we called David, I still remember it distinctively. Like, so solar sales were kind of drying up too because interest rates went up. So I was making good money, and then the last 3 months, like the sales are just going down. So usually you could go into a house. My brother, I had 2 other people that sold with me and myself. We could go into a house, and if they're paying $300 a month for their utility bill, we could finance them a solar system for $250, save them $50 a month. Easier sell. The interest rates went up, so now that same person that's paying $300 would have to pay $320, $350 a month. So it's a much harder sale. So that's what we were running into. The money was drying up, and I was just running more and more appointments to try and keep up with it. But that night before, so I was just praying in bed. I was riddled with anxiety, and it was like it was real. Like there was a vision of Jesus looking down on me, hands in the praying position, and a teardrop. And his lips weren't moving. I couldn't, but there was a communication there. And he reminded me, like, why are you so stressed about this situation? I've gotten you through everything that you've gone through in your life. Why can't you just trust in me? And like, that was the communication I got. And I just burst into tears, and I shared it with Oriana. And then the next day we had that call with David. And then that the whole series of events happened. So like, that's one of, if my mind made it up, whatever it was, it had an effect on me, but like, I remember it very vividly. So, but to answer your other question too, yes, Oriana grew up in Seventh-day Adventist. So knowing her, I'd already known a little bit about it. And then through my sobriety, and we tried multiple different churches and everything too, before, when we walked into this church, like we had probably gone to 10, 12 different churches trying to find like the right church, Seventh-day Adventist, you name it, all different ones too. And the first time we walked into this church, the feeling that we got, the welcoming that we got, the conversations that happened, I told Oriana while we were in that church, I was like, this is our church. And now that church is 2 hours away from us. We're an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes as we moved, and we still go to that church.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's kind of how that came about. And then you had another question too. What was it?
Just this. I'm interested in the spiritual side of business, right? Like everything that we from David's program is our personal development creates a better business for us. That's why we're all in this game. And to me, a personal relationship with God, if you're an addict, a sobriety foundation, those are two huge pieces to personal development that allow you to grow in business as well, right? So how do you, how does that affect your business today? How does that affect your leadership style? How does that affect your relationship with your wife, Oriana, your family, et cetera?
Yeah. So a little over a year ago, because I have a Monday morning meeting every Monday to start the week off. A little over a year ago, I felt called to like add a Monday morning prayer to end the meeting. And then my ego was in the way too. Like, well, what if I offend some people? What if some people we're trying to recruit don't like it? What if some people that are in the room are offended? And then I was just like, okay, if they're offended, then they're not our people, which is fine. God will bring us the right people, and that, and since then I can think of one guy that he didn't have a religion, didn't believe in God, and his girlfriend has come to us since that, like, hey, he's become interested in God and a relationship and stuff. So I saw that as like, okay, I can make a decision like that's going to protect me and my ego, or I can put God first, and that's how we end every Monday morning meeting is a Monday morning prayer. We take prayer requests, silent requests, and that's how we do it. And we've been doing it for over a year. And, and by the way, everybody loves it. All that self-talk that I had of like, what are people going to think if I do this, or, and now it's on our values, everything. We lead with that. We pray together during difficult times. Oriana and I we spent this past Saturday after church, we went to a park and we were there for about 3 hours reading a book together on different prayers and everything, just being in prayer and being in the Word together. And I'm very grateful to have a woman that her faith is so strong. Because me growing up, I didn't have that, and we plan on raising our children with that. And, but yeah, just like, you put your prayers or your wishes out, and then God is going to answer them if you open your eyes, because the opportunities are there, but we're blinded by so many different things. And we're imperfect beings. We make a lot of mistakes, but somehow He always guides us along the path, even though we make all those mistakes along the road.
Yeah, it's very powerful stuff. And my guess is all the trials and tribulations that you went through, the corporate job, the Nerf guns in the hallways, all these things. I mean, that has given you the experience today to be the leader that you are, to coach people in certain areas outside of life insurance sales that allow them to elevate their game, within the business, in the business world. So if you could just touch on quickly for an entrepreneur, a business professional, a salesperson who is thinking about taking the plunge, right? Who is, maybe they're crushing it in business, maybe they're struggling, but they have kind of come to this realization that there's a different way out there that they might want to explore, right? Like, what kind of advice would you give to somebody that's new on their journey?
Yeah, if you're thinking that you might have a problem, you do. There's so many. I see it today that so many people, when we go out to events and stuff like that, you can see it. Like someone has a problem, but they have not faced that problem. And I will say, for me, it was a very difficult road, very difficult, because you never know you really have a problem until you try and stop. Like, I remember telling people all the time that, like, oh, I could stop for 30 days. I could stop for 6 months. But actually doing that was another thing, So that right there, it's difficult, but you got to get support. You cannot do this thing on willpower. And us, especially salespeople, business people, entrepreneurs, high achievers, we think we can do anything through willpower, I'm going to tell you right now, if that's the case, you're going to fail. It's only a matter of time. You can't white knuckle this. You need support. You need to do the steps. You need to talk to other people that are like-minded, and you have to admit to yourself that you need help and you can't do this by yourself. That's the only way I've seen people be successful, myself included. And I fall into those traps too. When I pull away, I think it's better, but I recognize it too. Like, oh, I'm pulling away for a reason. Like, the next step of it is a slippery slope. Let me get in community again, and then it's refreshing now. Those rooms that were so dark and dingy and dirty to me before, now they're beacons of light, and that's where I want to be, or where I need to be when my mind starts wandering, and you start recognizing those patterns. But the best advice I can give you is you can't do it alone. You have to admit to yourself that if you have a problem, you're gonna need support, and God put people around you for a reason. You're not capable of doing this alone.
Well said.
You got anything, Mr. State Farm? Are you wearing your khakis today, by the way?
No, I'm not, man. I got a red watch. No, I could probably spend another hour just talking to Matt about what he's doing and how they do it. I think that's fantastic, man. It's got me peaked up pretty good. You gonna open up a call center, and or when are we gonna do the Arizona offices?
I was out there a couple weeks ago doing a podcast, and there's a guy that's been trying to meet with me that's in life insurance. We tried to schedule an appointment, and he didn't show. And I think he ended up going drinking the night before and ended up hungover. We didn't meet in the morning. So,
.com. Hit up MikeCurry.com.
But yeah, we're open to expanding. We have offices in Orlando, Tampa, Boston, Knoxville, and then a small office in Las Vegas right now.
Excellent.
Yeah. So,
well, Matt, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you'd like to share with us? I know it's your birthday. Do you guys have any special plans tonight? I know, the relationship you have with your wife, it sounds like, along with your relationship with God, has been the biggest asset, for you to have the kind of life that you have today. So,
yeah, just seeing, and it's harder some days than others, but like everything is happening for you. There's been what I'm going through with the leads right now, I'm beating myself up, but I keep telling myself is like, this is all happening for a reason. There's going to be a breakthrough, and it's probably going to be something that I didn't even foresee or believe that was possible. So I continue to my routine. I continue to wake up every morning early. I do my prayer, do my meditation, take my, you know how many vitamins I take at this age? Like I was counting them this the other morning. 32 different vitamins. I was like,
gosh.
So, but yeah, I stay on my routine. But yeah, this evening we're going to a nice steak dinner, and I'll probably have dessert. That's the other thing. When you stop drinking, alcohol is a sugar. Like, I never thought I liked candy or sugar. When I stopped drinking, I called it my diabetes drawer for the first 6 to 8 months. And I would just eat Skittles, Jolly Ranchers, and Snickers. And one night I did the math. I was like, I'm eating 1,600 calories of shit every night. So then so now I got an addiction to candy. So I had to wean myself off of that. But I'm going to look forward to a nice piece of cake tonight, though.
Right on, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. I incredibly grateful for sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us today. Wish you the most success here for the last month, just over a month here of the final month of 2025. So, and I look forward to seeing you in Lake Tahoe.
Yes, sir. We'll see you there. Thanks, guys. Have a blessed day.
Thank you. Likewise. All right.